Breathe deep. Almost every counselor suggests this method to their client. So I'm a counselor. I deep breathe, and I feel utterly ridiculous. And I may or may not giggle. Fast forward 2 or 3 years, and guess what? Now I am using this tool. So what changed my pre-adolescent attitude on deep breathing? The research was just incredible. Let me just go ahead and Google deep breathing and what it does for the brain. And you'll get all kinds of research. I'm going to just read a few of the things it says. It's technical, so I'm going to read it. Excuse me if I say it incorrectly. It activates the hypothalamus connected to the pituitary gland in the brain to send out neurohormones that inhibit stress-producing hormones and trigger a relaxation response in the body. And then the next one, let me explain. There's 2 systems called the sympathetic nervous system and then the parasympathetic. Now you'd think the sympathetic would be the nice one, but it's not. It's the stress. Sympathetic really triggers for stress. The parasympathetic fights that. So, okay, with that in mind, let me explain the next 2 things. Okay, it triggers the parasympathetic nervous system to come online and counter out sympathetic nervous system's fight or flight response to daily stresses. In effect, the relaxation response is the anti-fight or flight response. The means by which controlled breathing triggers the parasympathetic nervous system's linked to the stimulation of the vagus nerve, whatever that is. Vagus, V-A-G-U-S. A nerve running from the base of the brain to the abdomen, responsible for mediating nervous system responses and lowering heart rates, among others. So the vagus nerve releases a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine that catalyzes increased focus and calmness. I really could use focus, ask my husband. A direct benefit of more acetylcholine is a decrease in feelings of anxiety. Stimulating the vagus nerve also plays a role in treating depression, and even this can even help people who are resistant to antidepressant medications. And here's one really interesting, one of the more interesting research is that it actually can increase brain size. Specifically, the brain experienced growth in areas associated with attention. There's my attention again that I so desperately need, and processing of sensory input. So it says it seems to be even more noticeable in older people, which is a really good news because the reverse happens as we age. The gray matter becomes thinner. And when we breathe deep, I guess the gray matter gets thicker. So anyway, good stuff. Great stuff. This is even just the top of it. There's so much research showing what deep breathing does. So how do you deep breathe? So they recommend using your abdomen. I teach kids that they need to think of their stomachs like a balloon, fill it up with air, hold it a second or 2, and then release the air like a balloon deflates. Inflate, deflate. It's recommended that when you, however many seconds to take the deep breath, that when you let the air out, you take 2 more seconds to let the air out than bringing the air in. So for instance, if you breathe in for 5 seconds, hold it a little bit, then breathe out 7 seconds. If you breathe in for 3 seconds, breathe out 5 seconds. So that pattern helps all this wonderful brain stuff that we all need for attention and to fight anxiety. So in my course, Tame the Brain, I have a lot of tutorials for that. A lot of people already use this technique. Hopefully most of you aren't like me and like giggled or felt ridiculous, but that you've incorporated this already. And if you haven't, give it a try. So by practicing deep breathing, fast forward, it's really great because since I've started practicing it, when I need it, I can pull on it. So instead of acting like a crazy lady when I'm really upset, which sometimes I still do, but I can now remember to take a deep breath and calm myself down a little bit and respond the way I want to instead. So it really works. But you have to practice so that it becomes a natural thing when you actually really need it. So this week, my challenge is to practice deep breathing. If you already do it, great. If not, every day, practice for 3 or 4 minutes. And try to remember when you're upset to use that tool. And hopefully that will change. Hey, we get to thicken our brains by that. That's pretty great stuff.